Okay, we're going to start our Andy Warhol Four Faces Photoshop project today. Andy Warhol is a graphic artist from the 60s who was known for illustrations and art like you see over here on the right, sort of a modern artist. We're going to recreate that using a graphic that you have downloaded off the internet. So if you have not already downloaded a large high quality graphic, make sure you do that. You can either use the snipping tool or directly download it. And this works best if you have something where you can use just the face of the object. So a person or an animal or something to that effect. The tools we're going to learn on Photoshop are the cropping tool, the canvas resizing, which is sort of like the background, using the square marquee select where we can select something at a direct ratio, simple copying and pasting, and working with our layers, filters, and the history tool. So first I'm going to go ahead and switch to Adobe Photoshop here. And when you open up Photoshop, if you've already been logged in, this is using the 2023 version. We want to come to our main screen here, and we're going to open the graphic that we have saved onto our computer. So I'm going to click open over here on the left side and navigate to my downloads or my pictures. And we'll use one here with Logan. And this has a good, nice, high quality photo. One way that I can tell that it is high quality is I look at my zoom level up here. Right now I'm actually zoomed out at 33%, and it looks really nice and clear. If you are zoomed in at like 200, 300, 400%, and that's how far you have to zoom in to get this to be a reasonable size, that graphic is too small. So this one is good because I'm all the way zoomed out. Still looks good. If I were to zoom in to 100%, it would be something along these lines. And that obviously is a very large photo. So we can get to a level here where I can work with this. And this first tool I want to work with is up here. It's called the marquee tool. And if I don't see the rectangular marquee, I'm going to click and hold on it. You might see the optical or the elliptical marquee select tool, depending on which one you used last. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the rectangle tool. This just simply allows me to select. And actually, normally you are on what's called a normal selection, where it's rectangles or squares, whatever it is. But we want to make sure that this is an exact perfect square. So what we're going to do is go up here to the style, and we're going to change from normal to something called fixed ratio. And we're going to have it be a 1-to-1 ratio, which means it'll be a perfect square. So I'm going to click and select, and I'm just going to select Logan's face. All right. And if I don't like where the selection is, as soon as I let go, if I move to the middle of the selection, I can move it around until it is exactly where I want it to be. All right. That's perfectly where I want it to be. All right. Now, if you notice up here in the top right corner, I'm using something called the history tool. And this is really my undo or all of the steps I've done so far. So it makes it really easy to kind of go back and fix mistakes using this history tool. If I don't see this tool, it might be kind of pushed over here to the side or somewhere else. But if it's hidden, I can always go up to my window menu and make sure that history is checkmarked. The other tool I want to make sure that I have is the layers. Make sure that one is checkmarked as well. I can see my layers are over here. Currently, I only have one layer showing, which is the background. But make sure that you have those ones showing and visible. So now that I have those visible, I have my selection tool here. I've got a perfect square of Logan's face. I am going to first go to Image, Crop. And what crop will do is remove everything except for what I've selected. So I'm going to go ahead and click crop. And now you can see I am left with just Logan's face. Now this next step is crucial. I'm going to copy this entire layer. And I'm currently selected all the way around. I can tell because I can see these sort of dotted dancing lines here. And I'm going to press Control C to copy it. I can also go to Edit Copy. which is right here. And it even gives me a reminder, Control C. But I've already done that. So now it's in my clipboard. And now I'm going to paste it right away. And it's going to look like nothing happens, except if I watch over here in my layers, I'm going to paste it 3 times. Paste, paste, paste. And now you can see I have 3 layers over here that I'm going to work with. Maybe I'll move them up here so you can kind of see the layers a little bit easier. There are my 4 different layers. Okay, my background, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. So that means all right here, there are actually 4 different images of Logan's face. We're going to work with those in a second. My next step here is to double the amount of work area that I have, which is called canvas. So to do that, I'm going to go up to image, and I'm going to change my canvas size. Make sure you don't accidentally change your image size because that will just make it bigger. We want canvas size, which is the background. We're going to change pixels into percent, and we're going to make it double the size. So 200% width and height. And then this is a crucial step. I'm going to do it from the top left corner as my anchor, and you'll see what that does here. I'm going to click OK. And now you can see I have basically like a large sheet of paper, but this is called a canvas that I can work with. Now I'm going to take those layers that I've created and I'm going to spread them out in a nice even grid work. So to do that, I'm going to go up here to my move tool and I'm going to select my first layer 1 and I'm going to go ahead and pull that off to the side. Oop, and it jumped to layer 3, but that's okay. And I'm going to continue to click up here. So I have pulled out all of my layers. Make sure that they snap together so there's no blank spaces. And that should give me a perfect grid of 4 different images with 4 different layers. This background layer currently is locked, so it doesn't count as a layer. So to fix that, I'm going to click on this little lock right to the right side of it. That will actually unlock it and turn it into my 4th layer called layer 0. So now I can manipulate and work with all 4 of these layers independent of each other. So I'm going to actually start now with layer 0, and this is where we're going to use our filter tools. So I'm going to go up to my filter menu, and there are 2 different ways you can do filter tools. One is by just looking at all of these different drop downs. Now, these drop downs are good if you already know what these are going to do. So if I already know what embossing is going to do, I can go ahead and click on this and it will just sort of apply it, give me a little preview, and I can change some of my settings in here, which are kind of cool. And I can just kind of go up and down on these. And until you get really good at Photoshop, a lot of it is just clicking and experimenting to see what this does. Change the angle of the embossment. And I actually like that effect. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK to lock in that effect. Now, if I don't like that effect, I can go over here to my history and I can go ahead and move back 1 level and undo my history. And I decide, oh, nope, I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and redo that history. So it just keeps a running kind of record of everything you've done to your document. My next thing is I'm going to go ahead and work with this next layer. So I click on layer 1, which will allow me to work with this top right corner. And this time, instead of using a drop-down filter, because these are a little bit sort of blind guessing, I'm going to use what's called the filter gallery. So when I do the filter gallery, it actually gives me a preview of my image. So I'm going to make sure I'm scrolled all the way to the top right because I know that's the one I'm working with. And I can drop down all of these different effects, whether they're artistic, which gives me a lot of just sort of artistic effects, and the best way is to click through them and see what they look like, right? So I like this neon glow, but I don't want it to be blue. I want it to be sort of a green. So that's an effect I can do if I don't like the glow size or the brightness. Again, I can change those different effects. So I'm just going to click OK and decide, oh, I like that one. I'm going to click on layer 2 here. Go ahead and go to my filter. Now notice this very top thing says filter gallery, but that's not actually the filter gallery. That is just the most recent effect that I did. If I click on that, it's going to just automatically do what I just did to my previous layer. I'm going to undo that. That's not what I want. I'm going to actually go down to this filter gallery, which is what I showed you before. And this is where I can go in and change maybe to a different one. So I'm going to go ahead and do a sketch effect. And there's something cool about the sketch effects. The sketch effects are directly related to what color I have selected before I went into these settings. So for example, right in here, you're seeing sort of this bluish green effect. I'm going to click cancel and go over here to the left side where I can do my color selections. And I'm going to click on the foreground, and I decide, you know what, I want it to actually be like a purple instead. All right, so nothing has changed except I'm changing what my foreground color is. I'm going to go back into my filters, go down to my filter gallery again, and this time I'm going to go down into my sketch and choose that same sketch, but now you can see it's that purple color instead of the green that it was earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then my final layer here, I'm going to go ahead and click and do some other settings. And now for this one, maybe I want to do some layered effects, which means maybe I want to go ahead and do like a glass effect. And I'm going to go ahead and add that effect to it. But then I'm going to go into my filters and do an even more like layered effect. So it did that first effect, and then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to twirl it. And maybe I want to see what that looks like, change some settings. So now it has two different effects. It has that first one I did, which was like the glass effect, and then a twirl effect. I actually don't like that one, so I'm going to undo it and decide if this is the way I want this to look. Now you can continue to work with this, and if you really want to expand upon this, you could even add some more graphics over here to the right. Just expand your canvas a little bit more and duplicate some of these layers so you can keep working. When you're done, make sure you go to File, Save, so that you can save your actual Photoshop file. So I'm going to go into Pictures here, and I'm going to call this Four Faces, right? And that's my Photoshop file, so I can open this up later and still have all my layers and be able to manipulate these things. But I also want to turn this in, so I'm going to go ahead and save this as something that I can export as a quick PNG. That's a nice, quick, easy graphic. It's similar to a JPEG, but PNGs tend to be a little bit easier to work with. So I'm going to do a quick export as PNG. And I'm going to go ahead and put that out there as well under pictures. Just call it Four Faces. And now that's the one that I can actually turn in on Google Classroom. You could also upload it, put it as your screensaver, whatever you want to do with it. And that's how we work with our Four Faces project reflecting Andy Warhol.